You know, most people don't want a gun or a knife or a crossbow or a taser, a baton, anything like this, anything that they could use to defend themselves if the need arises. In fact, most people don't even think about it. Most people don't have any means of protection whatsoever. Now, some of us want to have those means of protecting ourselves, preferably legally, but in some places, the UK being a prime example, Australia as well, and certain countries in Europe, we don't have that right to ownership of the tools to defend ourselves. Yes, some of these countries it's legal to own and sometimes carry a gun or a knife or a baton, but these things are largely restricted in most countries. Now, on the topic of defending yourselves, most people think they'll be fine. They think, oh well, you could just run away or phone the police. Well, what about when the police don't get there on time? We've seen numerous examples of this now all over the world, from the UK, the USA, Australia, every country. As that saying goes, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. And that is true. Think about this. If someone was right in front of you, posing a threat to your life with a firearm, a knife, a hammer, any object you can think of, right, and they're posing a direct threat, maybe you can run away if you're fit and healthy and you're fast enough. That's reasonable to assume, I suppose. But what if you can't fight? What if the person's stronger and faster than you? What if you're disabled? Well, there's only a few things you could use to level the playing field. You need an equaliser. But as I just said, they're prohibited in many places. So what option are you left with? Hope you could fight with your hand? Hope you could grab something and throw it at them perhaps? Most people will say, well, just phone the police. Okay, imagine this. Someone right in front of you. They've already got a knife in their hand. You can't run away. Okay, how long does it take you to put your hand in your pocket, take your phone out, unlock your phone, put your password in, scan your face, put in your PIN, use your pattern, whatever method you use to lock your phone, dial 999, 911 or whatever the number is for your emergency services, the operator to answer, you tell them what the problem is and where you are, and then from there you've still got to wait for them arriving. They might arrive on time to scrape you off the floor. Try and experiment with a friend, right? Ask them, just use your bare hand, just the palm of your hand, and tell them, go in your pocket and try to pull out your phone, right? And while they're doing that, tap them on the chest or on the arm, obviously in a non-invasive manner, but of course you won't have their consent to do this, right? And now just imagine that was a knife, right? This is just a little experiment. This is what I like to do with people. Now, in that situation, you need to defend yourself, but it's too late. Now think about this. What if those people who are meant to protect you refuse to do so? I've seen numerous cases of that. Here's an example. The grooming gangs here in the UK. How many people have went unpunished after abusing little girls? How many of those little girls have been arrested themselves for crimes they had not committed? Being arrested for being drunk and disorderly, under the influence of drugs or prostitution, while being raped by men in their 40s. 12-year-old girls we're talking about, and the police ignore these crimes on a massive scale. It's estimated that there's probably been millions of little girls abused under these conditions and just being ignored, and only now we're starting to talk about it. But what if it goes a step further than that? The police only not helping you in your time of need, they abuse you. They arrest you for defending yourself We've seen that numerous times too. And you know what? I've been in that situation. I've been told that if the person tried to assault me was to be charged, I was also to be charged. For what? Defending myself. But what if it goes even further than that and they attack you? I've seen so many videos recently, and this is before the whole thing in the States recently. I'm going to get to that. So many videos recently under the COVID lockdown of British police abusing people. Now, whether it's related to COVID or if it's just been the police being horrible people, I don't know. Nonetheless, it's happened. There's the video of the policeman squaring up to a young guy. He must have been about 19, 20 or so. The policeman squares up to him and says, "What are you going to do? I'll make something up. Who are they going to believe, me or you?" The policeman was squaring up to the guy and threatening him with arrest for nothing. Threatening to make something up. The same policeman has been seen punching people. There's so many videos of this from the UK and the USA, and no doubt most other countries. I'm sure there's many, many, many cases we've not heard about. And I don't think I really need to say all that much on the current situation over in the States. For future reference, this is the 1st of the 6th, 2020. So you already know what's going on during this time period. I don't know what happened to that guy that was murdered by the police. I don't know what the situation with that is. But at the end of the day, the guy was on the ground, right? It wasn't a threat. He was in handcuffs, 4 policemen. One of them murdered him. I don't care what he did, right? He has a right to a fair trial. Maybe he did something illegal. But at that moment, that policeman was judge, jury and executioner. That's quite problematic. That's a terrifying thing to happen. That could be anyone. That could be your friend. That could be your family member. That could be you. And you know what? I'm not really convinced that this whole riot, so I'm not even going to call them protests because it's not, it's a riot, breaking into innocent businesses, stealing and killing innocent people. What's that proven? It's not. Just today I must have seen at least 3 videos of, well, am I even allowed to say, of certain individuals, hashtag not all, right? Same with the police. Not all police, not all certain groups, you know, are doing this. I'm fully aware of this. Not the point. Look, at the end of the day, my point is we should be able to defend ourselves, right? 4 policemen, 1 policeman kneeling on a guy, choking him to death, and he begs for his life. The other 3 watch. And people can only just watch and do nothing because the police are armed and they are not. I don't care what he did, right? They murdered him. At the end of the day, that was murder. He knew what he was doing. He's a trained policeman. He should know what he was doing. That was a complete abuse of power. Like I said, so many videos of police beating people. I've seen numerous videos of people being in cuffs by 2 or 3 police officers, being shoved into a car. They can't even move and they're being kicked and punched by the police. That's not reasonable force. It's funny that though, when it comes to the terrorists and the paedophiles and the rapists, well, certainly in the UK, they seem to get a free council house and benefits for the rest of their life and the right to remain in Britain. We're talking about 2 separate issues, I know, but I'm just trying to make the point. My underlying point is we should be able to defend ourselves against criminals, terrorists, and yeah, the government. I'm going to say that, right? On the other hand, you've got armed people, and you know what? I don't care what colour they are. I don't care if they're black, white or purple. I couldn't care. At the end of the day, they're legally armed, and I'm in full support of that. They're protecting businesses. And what's happened? Nothing. They've not been targeted. I wonder why. because they can defend themselves, they can defend the properties. I think there's something to be said about that. Now, is the establishment likely to infringe on your rights if you could do something about it? What could we do here in Britain, for example, if our government becomes tyrannical? If they, I don't know, impose ridiculous laws on us, they try to take away our freedoms. I mean, what am I on about? They are trying to take our freedoms. Freedom of speech is going down the toilet. You barely do have the right to defend yourself already, and we're seeing police abuse of powers. And I'm sorry, but the Coronavirus Act just goes too far. To be honest, I think the majority of people haven't actually read it to see what it actually involves. I had read the Coronavirus Act for Scotland and England. They were two separate pieces of legislation. Not entirely the point though. Put it this way, do you want to live under a government like what China has? They don't have the right to own guns there. Where would you rather live? A country like China, where everything you do and say is censored and monitored and tracked and traced by the government. When they're looking at every little thing you're saying online, they've got cameras everywhere watching every movement, facial recognitions cameras, where you could be penalised just for the slightest little thing, where you can't buy a train ticket or anything like that. In fact, they've even got guilt by association with their social crediting system. I'm trying to pay attention to what's going on in China because I honestly believe that China is, well, I think it's going to happen in most of Europe, to be honest. I think that's the sort of thing they want to implement in Europe and the United States. Say what you want about that, I think we're just heading to authoritarianism. In fact, straight up totalitarianism. I think that's what's coming. I don't really want to push any conspiracies or whatever you want to call it here, but I think there's way more at play than what we're actually seeing here. Maybe nothing happens. Maybe you don't need a gun, right? That's fair. Maybe you don't need these things. But is it not better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it? Preppers for years have been demonised and laughed at and called ridiculous. Oh, that'll never happen. This won't happen. It's fine. Then, boom. COVID, right? All of a sudden, these preppers that have been saving up bags of rice and beans and growing their own food and keeping air rifles at home to hunt with and defend themselves, they're no longer that crazy now, are they? Because while all the normies out there were panic buying, running to the shop, buying up all the pasta and the hand sanitizer, the prepper was sitting in his, well, wherever he keeps his stuff, he's sitting in his house, sitting on his couch, looking at the news, looking at YouTube or Facebook, thinking, ha, bunch of morons. We tried to tell you. Yeah, you did. Now things are going back to normal, yeah. Well, at least in the shop. I mean, what am I talking about? It's not going to go back to normal. This is normal now. And my God, 2020 has been a bad year so far. Look at all the disasters that's happened already. Floods and wildfires and riots, and how many times have we came this close to war now? Be it with Iran or China. Look, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm happy to admit that. I'm just a twat on the internet. I'm just a guy sitting here with a BB gun and a lock knife in my kitchen. You know what I mean? I don't know anything, but I'll be honest, I'm worried for the future. I don't know what's coming, right? But I want the ability to prepare for it. Of course, no one wants to hurt another person. In no way, shape or form would I want to bring harm to another human being. Okay? Not at all. I wouldn't want to have to punch someone or anything of the sort. I'm not going to say anymore because, you know, the UK laws and all the rest. I mean, I wouldn't dream of it. Even in an act of self-defence. Now, at the end of the day, you've got to do what you've got to do. If you need to protect a loved one, you've got to protect a loved one, and they come first. I think this is something that we all need to stop and think about and make a difference. Maybe you buy an air rifle or a shotgun or a crossbow just in case you need to go hunting and provide for your family or protect them. You probably won't ever need to. Good, you shouldn't have to, but you should be allowed that ability, that freedom. That should be your right. It should not be a privilege to own a gun, it should be a right. Granted, there's some aspects of society that you don't want to have these items. Terrorists, child molesters, rapists, I agree. But there's bad actors in the state. They're not all good people. I know it's not all, right? But some of them are really awful people. Why are innocent people being punished for the actions of a few? That's what I'm saying. Right? Maybe a few people go postal with a gun. I understand that concern. But you know what? When a terrorist goes postal with a truck, well, the results are just as horrific, if not worse. We only have to look back at the 2015 terrorist attacks in Nice in France. And all those other times that terrorists illegally got hold of firearms in Europe, be it Germany, France, the United Kingdom. Bad people are getting these items either way, no matter what the law says, right? Does the law maybe help prevent some aspects of society getting them? Yeah, I don't doubt it. But these things should be our right to own. I mean, we need to be able to defend ourselves, and I'm hoping that it's becoming more and more apparent. I don't know how many videos I've seen of people being punched to death. Individual people, one person by themselves, being ganged up on by 10 or more people, stomping on their head. I mean, what's that all about? What kind of a coward do you have to be to do that? If that person had a gun or something to defend themselves, maybe they would have fared better. Now, I think that example I'm thinking of, the guy had a sword, right? Better than nothing, I suppose. But I think they killed him. Wouldn't it be different if he had a gun? Granted, of course, these rioters, these thugs could also have a gun. But at least it gave him a chance. At least it would have given him a chance. That's, I'm basically just advocating for individual rights and freedoms for everyone. Like I said, I don't care if you're black, white, purple, whatever. I don't care what your ideology. I mean, when I say ideology, I mean some ideas are really bad ideas, religious or, you know what I mean. There's some really horrible people. So long as they don't act out, I don't care what someone thinks or says. It's not words that you've got to worry about. In fact, if someone has something horrible to say, if someone hates a particular group, I want it out in the open so I can know who to avoid and who to watch out for. In fact, that's why I don't censor comments. If you've got something shitty to say in the comment section, well, it's out in the open. I'm not going to delete it. Let people see it. Let them make up their own mind. It's the same if a woman is being sexually abused. Pepper spray. Yeah, the pepper spray could be used against her, but at least she gets a chance. Just think about all these things that I've just said. The world's a big scary place and people want to hurt you, and there's nothing going to change that. No amount of laws and restrictions and criminalising things and taking these things away from good people. How about the Canadian gun ban? Millions and millions and millions of good law-abiding Canadians are now getting their personal property seized by the state for the actions of one person. I don't understand why. One person did something wrong with an illegal firearm. Ban it for millions of people at the cost of billions of taxpayer dollars, Canadian dollars. It's just something to think about. I mean, I know that most of the people that already follow my channel, you probably already know this. A good chunk of you already probably have guns and crossbows, and I know the vast majority have knives, which is why you're here. This is a knife channel after all. Share this with people that don't quite understand. like I said before, you've got a fire alarm in your house, you wear a seatbelt in your car, you probably have a fire extinguisher in your house. A lot of people have a first aid kit in the house. You keep both a first aid kit and a fire extinguisher in a workshop. And right now people are wanting to wear masks just in case of COVID. Just in case. Well, have a means to protect yourself just in case. Anyway, I'm about reaching the capacity for this video, so I'm going to have to end it here. Like I said, do share this with other people if you don't mind. Let me know your thoughts, as I'm sure a lot of you will. Thanks for watching, and honestly, stay safe. Things are just getting scary. Have a good day.